Today I'm joined by Andrew Tucknott. Andrew's the managing director at Tomsetts Distribution, who are the most experienced pallet delivery specialists in Sussex, helping businesses move palletized goods reliably and efficiently. So welcome, Andrew.
Hi, how you doing, Simon?
Yeah, I'm really well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us today.
My
Uh,
pleasure.
Andrew, look, firstly, tell us a bit more about Tomsetts Distribution and what the business does.
Okay, well, Tomsetts Distribution is a general road haulage business. We specialise in palletised deliveries. This year is celebrating our 50th anniversary. Back in 1975, when I was on the way, my dad worked for a company called China Tomset, based in Seaford, and a company wanted to buy China Tomset, but they didn't want the vehicles because they had their own fleet. So my dad turned around to Ernie Tomset and said, "Well, why don't we start a transport company with the vehicles?" And he said, "Well, I haven't thought of that. Let me see." And he worked out Ernie Tomset worked out a contract with the buyers for 2 years to get Tomset's transport going. And yeah, quite quickly they outgrew the premises, moved over to New Haven, and then 12 years later, they had a purpose-built building and warehouse up on the North Quay here, and we've been here since.
Oh, no, thank you for sharing that. And yeah, I love these sort of stories behind how businesses sort of started out. And sometimes it's through design, but sometimes it's just through an opportunity arising and sort of saying, actually, look, could we do this? Which obviously your father looked to do then. So um, and then look, tell us a little bit more about how you became involved in the business. Because as I introduced you, you're currently the managing director of the
Hmm.
business. But how did you become involved and why did you become involved?
Okay, well, my first job was in New Haven, working for Russell Simpson Marine, who is still going as well. They're ship's chandlers. I worked there for 2 years, and then a position came up at Tomsets, and it seemed like a natural progression more than anything. And I started out in the traffic office. Back then, it was very analog, just files full of paperwork, PODs, routes, all sorts of things. Um, and I worked in the traffic office for about 10 years and then moved over to the sales side of things. And then in that time, I've done other things. I've been at Tomsets for 30 years now, on and off. Been a promotions manager at a nightclub, and I've been traveling a couple of times, that sort of thing. But again, gravitated back here. So Dad retired a number of years ago, and then my Uncle Steve took over running the business on his own. He came close to selling the business a few times in recent years, but each time it fell through at the last minute for various reasons. And then on the fourth time, he had a written offer on the table and said, "Look, I'm not sure I want to sell it to these guys. I don't know what they're going to do with the business. If you can raise the money, then you can have it at that price." And I thought, well, I haven't got any money. I've never run a business before, and there's some quite big question marks over it. But we got over the finance hurdle of it, and I thought, well, I'm just gonna have to learn on the job basic. That's probably the best way to do it. So that's what we did. I completed the management buyout in February last year. So I've only been running it properly since March, and it's been quite the rodeo.
I bet it has. Brilliant. That's fantastic. Um, so look, you mentioned there has been quite the rodeo. So what would you say over that period? So since February last year, when you did the management sort of buyout, what's been the biggest challenge that you've faced?
Ooh, the biggest challenge was making use of the space that we've got here. So over the last few years, Tomsits has had to downsize quite rapidly through loss of contracts, Some big businesses went bust. Some businesses got bought and moved up to the Midlands. And another big contract just sort of came to the end of its natural life. And so we had to make redundancies, we had to sell vehicles, but we still had this great big premises, this great big yard, this site that's probably knocking on for sort of 3 acres, something like that. So I took the business. I mean, wandering around thinking, what am I going to do with this space then? Because it's this fixed cost, we can't do anything about. So we decided to open a lorry park. And we did that with help from DFDS, who run the ferry service between Newhaven and Dieppe. When I went to meet them, it was purely by chance. I went down the ferry terminal, and there's a group of DFDS France, about 9 people sat there, including the decision makers, all eating KFC. So they said, well, come and sit down with us. Here's a little tub of popcorn chicken. What do you want to talk to us about? I said, well, I've got this idea. I want to open a lorry park, but I know you've got parking spaces down here. I don't want to tread on anybody's toes. And they said, well, this is music to our ears, because we're losing these final parking spaces to extra security checks and extra customs procedures because of Brexit. And their concern was that people would stop using the freight service because there's nowhere for drivers to take their break. So they were a massive help getting that set up. We opened that officially 1st of August last year. And that's been a roaring success, really. And there's been spin-offs from it as well. I'd say that's the biggest challenge facing us, is these massive costs that are fixed, and how we're going to, turn over money to cover them, basically.
Overcome them, and that's brilliant that you had that challenge. You sort of were facing it, saying, "What do we do?" Thinking about the alternatives that you've got, the lorry park. But the thing that really resonated with me there, Andrew, is you sort of went, "Well, let's go and try and do it." You didn't sort of procrastinate. Oh yeah, look, they're not gonna want it because they've already got these parking spaces. And by the way, it sounds like you didn't even have a meeting set up. You just wandered down there and grabbed an opportunity, which is fantastic. You just went, no, look, let's just do it. Let's give it a go. Let's see what happens from this. So I think there's a lesson for all of us in there, in terms of sometimes we can be held back by thinking, oh, it's not going to work, or they're not going to be interested. But actually, you just did it and went, let's see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you shouldn't be afraid of making decisions and taking the plunge, because the worst that's going to happen is you're going to learn from your mistake.
Yeah.
And that's it. So, if you go into these things with a bit of positivity, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I like it. And if you could wave a magic wand right now and solve one challenge in your business, what would it be?
Well, we still have a number of challenges to overcome, and cost is the main thing, or increasing cost is the main thing that's holding us back at the moment. We've done a lot to cut costs, to cut losses over the last year, and it is definitely working. We've increased sales as well. One of my great ideas initially was we have a workshop here where we maintain our own fleet, and it's fine for maintaining your own fleet, but we're not really commercially minded in that, and I wanted to open up to third-party work. So if I could wave a magic wand now, I would audit that workshop, take everything out, clean it up, get rid of what we don't need, bring everything in that we do need, get it up to IRTE certification, and get cracking on that. We've got, there's the O licenses in Newhaven alone cover about 500 HGVs. And there's probably not that many, because like us, we've got an O license for 50 odd vehicles, but we don't have that many at the moment. So I imagine other companies are the same. But I reckon there's good 200 or 300 HGVs in Newhaven still, who have to go to Gatwick or Maidstone or Hastings to get their vehicles maintained and little jobs done on them. So I can see a huge potential market there, but it is going to take a lot of time, work, and effort to get it up to standard before we can do that. So that would be my magic wand. Just we have a workshop we can just get working to straight away.
So what, if I understand that correctly, what you would maintain other people's sort of fleet vehicles
Yeah,
in that. Yeah, okay, brilliant.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
I love that you've got these ideas in terms of because sometimes we can get so focused on what the underlying business is, like in your case, the providing the distribution services, that we become blinkered to the other opportunities. And I think that a prime positive example of this is somebody like Amazon. Amazon, if we remember back, sort of said I think they called themselves the world's largest bookstore.
Yeah.
They were just selling books. Now look at what they do. It's everything. And they've just worked out and gone with the flow and seen other opportunities. And it sounds as though that's what you're doing with the business as well, and sort of saying, okay, look, what can we do that actually is associated with what we're currently doing, and how can we sort of branch out and look at different things? That's great.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, we diversify. We've got these new streams of revenue, but exactly what you say, they are associated with, they're linked to what the core business is. It's all sort of spins off from there.
Right. And what would you say your biggest learning has been since you've been in business, Andrew?
So it's been a pretty steep learning curve on the finance side of things. I mean, we have a absolute whiz in our accounts department who basically held everything together, at the start, because it's still a multi-million pound turnover business. And Zan, who controls our accounts, was basically doing it on her own. And we've had some quite interesting transitions since then by switching our accounts package and things like that, which is quite a large undertaking. But what I think my biggest learning is on the sustainability side of things.
Right.
We're doing an awful lot around that. It started very small, changing light bulbs to LED, retrofitting the urinals to waterless. Very small capital expenditure, but a big return on investment. And going down this route, we're trialing electric vehicles. We're looking at repowering some of the fleet as well from diesel to electric. Trying to get in charging stations, obviously, to charge those vehicles as well. We're a bit limited up here. And I think the biggest learning from that, the biggest takeaway is that if you go down this sustainability route and you're cutting your carbon emissions, we calculated our carbon emissions back to 2019, and we've started to see a reduction down. But if you're cutting carbon, you're cutting costs. And that's my biggest learning from it. So even if the biggest climate denier in the world, it actually makes business sense to go down this route. And then what you're doing is you're aligning yourself with pretty much every other business out there at the moment who is doing more and more and more around their own sustainability because their customers demand it. And we're picking up business off the back of that as well, from companies that are B Corp certified, for example. So that's an idea that started small. Let's just do a 1 hour course of writing net zero plan. It'd be easy, but it wasn't. It very quickly became overwhelming. But this discovery that for small capital expenditure, if you're collaborating, these sort of relationships are out there at the moment with people who can help you with your power supply, with your charging stations, with solar PV solar on the roof. There's funding available. Obviously, there's a very big announcement over the weekend about funding for cars and buses and HGVs. So the help is out there if you do it now. I think if you wait, you're going to be too late. It's going to be very expensive. But for now, anything you do, and everything we've done, where we've cut carbon, it's literally cut our costs.
Like you highlighted sort of, two main points there. One was you mentioned about the finances, and I think that's just to to quickly go back to that, that's, you know, that's the lifeblood of any business, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, making sure and understanding the finances within the business and making sure that you know, there's control over that, visibility over it. Really important sort of great learning. But then obviously the major point that you highlighted there was the sustainability. And it's, you know, it's, as you sort of said there, it's a win-win-win, because, you know, it's a win from helping the environment, cutting carbon. It's a win from the point of view of that it's helping you to cut costs, and there is support out there, as you quite rightly say. And it's a win from the point of view that more and more businesses want to work with, you know, businesses that are focused on sustainability, because as you highlighted, their clients demand it. So your clients demand it. So actually, by being focused on sustainability, you can pick up business. You've got an edge on perhaps other people that aren't so focused on that. So love that. Yeah, sustainability is that win-win-win situation. And what would you say to anybody thinking of going into business, to either starting up their business or acquiring a business? What would you say to anyone?
I would say go for it. Stop thinking about it and just do it. Like I said earlier, I had so many question marks over my own capability, over the financial side of things. Never run a business before, but obviously been in and around trucks for some time now. And it's surprising how much you do know. That's the other thing as well. And you know, you're going to have ups and downs. That is for sure. Even when it's going really well, you know, there's going to be, your costs are going to go up in line with it, and you're not going to make any money. But slowly you'll turn things around. You'll get the help you need as revenue grows. And you know, at the end of it, if you have a plan, like our plan is a 10-year plan, we want to hit 10 million turnover, 1 million profit, and have a business that would be very attractive to a buyer, for example. But if you're doing those things to make your business attractive to a buyer, you're probably doing best practice to make your business work well anyway. So yeah, just go for it, because even not making a decision is still a decision. You know, you've chosen not to make a decision, there's going to be consequences. So I would just go for it.
Yeah, look, again, great advice. You know, we don't know everything. We know more than we think we know. You know, I work with a lot of business owners and executives, and I always say they already know what they need to be doing, but there's something that's stopping them from doing it. Whatever that, and that could be a number of particular reasons. So I absolutely agree with you. We know more than we think we know. Love the fact that you've got your 10-year plan there. And again, what you said is quite right, that actually if you're working towards creating a business that could be sold, then actually you are doing the right things in the business if you're looking to increase the value of that business when it could be sold. So creating that business that is in a saleable position in 10 years' time, it actually gives you the freedom to pick and choose what you want to do with the business. Then you can actually go, well, actually we're going to sell the business because yeah, we can get a great value for it, or actually we've got a great business now, and it can create a lovely sort of passive income for the business owners that perhaps don't need to work in it anymore. Or it could be handed down to the next generation because there's a great business. It gives you that freedom. So I like the fact that you picked up there that, yeah, if you're creating a business that could be sold, it actually creates options.
Yeah.
And so thank you for sharing that. I think that's a great point. And look, there's one question I love to ask everybody that's kind enough to join me, Andrew, which is this: what's the best advice that you would give to an 18-year-old you? So if you could go back and speak to yourself when you were 18, what would you say to yourself?
Start paying into your pension pot a bit earlier.
Okay, yeah.
That would be a good one. I think, yeah, I wish I'd started a bit, my own business a lot longer ago. I mean, I'm 50 very soon. I've got probably 10, 15 years, hence the 10-year plan. But I've got a little bit of leeway there. But I'm just enjoying it so much and throwing myself into it so much that I would say, yeah, just try and crack on with your own business at a much earlier age. So you're not working for somebody for all that time, making them rich.
Yeah, I like it. I think, and I could discuss this for a long time, but one of my sort of thought processes is that education these days actually teaches us how to go out and get a job. It doesn't necessarily teach us how to become a business owner. So I like the fact that what you've said there is that actually, yeah, don't just think about, oh, I've got to go out and get a job. Think about, actually, do I want to be a business owner? Would I like to be a business owner? How would I go out and start my own business? What do I need to know? What do I need to learn? Who do I need to speak to? So brilliant advice then. Love that, Andrew. Well, Andrew, look, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today and sharing more about your business, but also your journey as well. So thank you very much.
No, you're welcome. It's been fun.